Hey y'all, welcome back to ENL 51, Summer Session 2, Rap as Poetry. Uh, as I record this, it's been a messed up past week, within the frame of a messed up few months, within the frame of a messed up year or two or three. Rough times. I want you all to know that I hope you're doing all right with the wildfires across the state. I hope you and your loved ones and friends and family are all safe. And if there's anything I can do to support you or make it a little bit easier on you if you're having a rough time, email me and let me know. Get in touch, and I'm happy to chat with you and try to help you figure out something that works for you, whether it's related to this class or another class or school stuff. I know a lot about how colleges work, I guess. Have been in college for a long ass time, including my 2 master's degrees and the PhD I'm finishing now. So, yeah, get at me. Let me know. I hope you're doing all right. This week we're going to be studying some songs around the theme of identity and spirituality. I think on the whole, they're kind of uplifting songs that we've got on deck, and hopefully will be a nice balm or salve to kind of get our minds off of all of the craziness that's going on right now, and kind of look inward a little bit, so to speak. Yeah, so why don't we just get into it? Share my screen. Yes. Cool. So identity and spirituality is the theme of this week. I start out my notes, as I often write, on these lessons. These lessons are available as PDFs to you on our Canvas page. I hope you know that you don't have to only read them on my YouTube videos. In my notes that I write every week, for this week's notes, I kind of start off thinking about, I've heard a lot of people like make fun of rappers saying their names a lot. I don't know if that's still a thing that people joke about, or if that was like a joke from 10 years ago now. But yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was like, like I get it, why there's so much insistence on the importance of a name in hip hop. And I was thinking about this other phrase that comes from hip hop culture from earlier on. Word is bond is a saying. It's why or how we say it. Word now is shorthand for word is bond, which means like my word is my bond. What I say is what I'm responsible for and what I will do, and I somehow owe allegiance to my words and to the word. So word is bond, and names in particular are a very important kind of word that point to a rapper's or an artist's or a human being's identity, their being as a human, within various kinds of social and political circumstances as well. So I have some kind of notes starting out to think about that. Identity and spirituality, I think, is maybe like a somewhat imprecise set of terms, but I don't have better words for what I'm trying to think about with the songs for this week. I think these songs think about, as I say in the notes, the big questions of who am I? What does it mean to be me? What is my role in the world? What does it mean to be a human being in the world? I think these songs are wrestling with that from a variety of perspectives. So I'm excited to dig into these songs with you. Got some quotes by Paz de Neus of De La Soul and Langston Hughes, great American poet, up on the first page. I've got some notes as usual, some tips for your reading responses, and my reading response assignment that I'm posting on our Canvas page is it's a little bit more detailed and kind of has some direction and some feedback about how the reading response has been going and stuff too. It's a picture of the native tongues, loose affiliation or crew. Got De La Soul, Jungle Brothers, Queen Latifah, Tribe. Yeah. Cool. So let's get into the songs and other readings for this week. I'm going to start out with Arrested Development, a song called Tennessee. Not talking about the TV show Arrested Development. It really bothered me when I was in like college or maybe in my master's degree program in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, and my friends were always talking about Arrested Development. I didn't know it was a TV show, and every time they'd mention it, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I fucking love that song," and they're like the theme song, and I'm like, "What?" And there was a awkward moment, and it happened every time. And ultimately, I figured out that they were always talking about the TV show, but I still thought it was funny to do the "Oh, I love that song," and then make them feel bad for not knowing about the hip hop group Arrested Development. Great group. This song Tennessee was a major hit. It was probably their biggest song. They had a few songs that were kind of big in the early 90s, but this was maybe their biggest. I think, I'm really curious to hear what you all think of this song, coming from your own generation and your own context and standpoint on music. I was always like, when my elders were like talking about how Run DMC would always be the kings of hip hop, I kind of like laughed to myself, and I was like, man, Run DMC, like their rhymes are so boring compared to like what's going on now and stuff. And I understand the historical and cultural importance of Run DMC, but like their music just didn't do it for me exactly. And maybe Arrested Development will be the same way for you all. So I'm curious to hear what you think. This is, for my money, maybe one of the 10 best hip hop songs of all time. I think there's a great song, Tennessee by Arrested Development. So I didn't look this up. I think Arrested Development is from Wisconsin. Could be totally wrong about that. Shouldn't say it on a video without looking it up, but I mean, you're all on the internet. You can look it up. So they're rapping about a return to Tennessee, to their roots. And so reading this song alongside like historical trends of the migration of Black folks from the South to the North in the 20th century, and kind of the movement of peoples, is one way of kind of thinking about the historical context of this song, where for several generations, really pretty much everybody in the US was living rural agricultural lives for a long time, but in particular, Black folks living in rural South, and with the specter of enslavement and then sharecropping and all kinds of stuff like that. And then, we see a major industrialization and urbanization throughout the US, and the particular shapes that takes for the Black community, moving north and moving to urban centers and getting away from the land. And I think that stuff is the backdrop for Arrested Development's song Tennessee, and thinking about what it means to go, he says, speech, the MC says, get out of the country and into more country. He's talking about traveling back to this rural area as a way of getting in touch with his roots, and those roots being, marked by the trauma of racist violence and enslavement and stuff. And he's thinking about that in this song. So I love it. I'm excited to hear what you all think of it. I've probably talked too much about it already. Next up is De La Soul, I Am, I Be. It's from their third album, Balloon Mind State. Their first two albums are awesome, certainly worth listening to. They ushered in, or helped usher in, kind of a major transformation of what hip hop imagined itself as and what it could do. Them, along with the Jungle Brothers and Tribe Called Quest and stuff, are known as the Native Tongues crew. And both, Arrested Development wasn't exactly affiliated with the Native Tongues officially, but I think both of them are, in broad terms, part of what was a sort of Afrocentric movement in hip hop history, where back to Africa thinking and aesthetics and cultural tradition and politics was a major trend within hip hop culture as a solution to the problems of racism and as a way of thinking about identity and what it means to be Black in America. And so they both talk in different ways about what it means to be Black to them and their roots in Africa and African culture and aesthetics. So that's an important backdrop for both of these songs. Every once in a while, some stuff that either speech from Arrested Development or one of the dudes from De La Soul, every once in a while they'll say something that sounds pretty far from what we consider acceptable politics today in the ways that they talk about Black identity and Africanness. So it can be a little surprising sometimes. So I wanted to give that backdrop. Native Tongues is a movement you can look into. Afrocentrism, Afrocentricity in hip hop is a movement that you can look into, and it's worth studying. and IMIB is I think it's an awesome song, one of my favorites. Super weird, super hard to interpret at times, especially Trugoy, Dave's verse, the second verse, I guess. Very bizarre and metaphorical. I don't understand all of it, and that's part of the fun. I think that's part of what they're up to, is to try to confuse us in these creative ways. Next up, almost the opposite approach to hip hop, not a hyper metaphorical inner spirituality, metaphysical mysticism, but something entirely different. Tupac, song "Dear Mama." I'm gonna be honest with you all. Tupac is one of my blind spots in hip hop history and culture. I didn't grow up listening to him. I grew up listening to East Coast stuff mostly, and the more that I've listened to and studied Tupac, I respect where he's coming from, and I understand what he did for the culture. To my mind, claiming him as the greatest of all time is not exactly warranted by the evidence that's on the tapes, that's on the CDs. That's just my thoughts. But this is a great song, and more generally, Tupac has a lot of passionate, heartfelt songs where he's thinking about issues of family, issues of gender relationships, and how those aspects of identity play out in the lives of him and his community, and his family members and loved ones and stuff. So, yeah, Tupac, California. Next up is Atmosphere, God's Bathroom Floor. This was an underground classic. One of the songs. I don't think Drake could be what he is without Atmosphere and some other underground rappers paving the way for like this emo rap thing. I think they got to it before Drake did, and I think they laid down some kind of schema or blueprints for that. So God's Bathroom Floor, poetic, amazing song about drug use and all kinds of other stuff. Blew my mind when I first heard it, blew a whole generation's mind when they first heard it, especially underground indie hip hop folks. I hope you like it. Next up, Lauryn Hill, Doo Wop, That Thing. Lauryn, she had the skills to be one of the greatest MCs of all time. It's still like a major tragedy that she only released like 1.5 solo albums, if you count Unplugged, the MTV Unplugged album. That doesn't even have a ton of rapping on it. And then a few records with the Fugees before that. She's amazing. Her album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, was an instant classic, and it remains one of the strongest, most important albums in hip-hop history. The conceptual work it's doing, the ways she talks about spirituality, gender, identity, and hip-hop and what hip-hop means to her are phenomenal. I wish she had more music, or I wish we had access to more of her music if she's made it. And one thing to note about this song, I mean, probably you've heard this song before, but the rhyme scheme is incredible. I was just like looking at it and thinking about it, preparing for this week's lesson and stuff. And the rhyme scheme is incredible. She basically stays on the same end rhyme for the entire song, throws in some internal rhyme, switches it up in some ways with multi-syllables. But overall, it's an impressive thing to put together such a cohesive song with that kind of rhyme scheme. Finally, Jay-Z, December 4th, sort of like an origin story near the end of the Black album. It's kind of a retirement song, one of his many hypothetical potential retirements, and obviously it never really sticks, which is great because he's released a ton of awesome music. Yeah, I think this is a really cool song, thinking about his life kind of autobiographically, telling an origin story for himself. So I pay attention to, like, what is he trying to focus on in this origin story? Why is he telling us this at this point in his career when he's like 6 or 8 albums in or whatever? And there's awesome wordplay and stuff as usual. The B-sides, just wanted to touch on a couple things. Blackalicious is from I think they're from Sacramento. They're from Northern California. They're cool. Gift of Gab, the MC, has done some really amazing things. This is maybe not necessarily their best song, but I thought it fit in with the theme in an interesting way, and it's a cool song. Brother Ali is another Minneapolis rapper that I grew up loving. He has some really heartfelt and really clever songs that I've put on there. Blue in Exile, that's what I wanted to talk about. Blue in Exile, their 2007 album Below the Heavens, was an instant classic in kind of indie hip hop circles. It's gets back to hip hop's roots, one DJ and one MC. The sound that they put together and blues rhymes are just incredible. I highly recommend checking out the whole album, but this song fit our theme. Actually, like 5 of the songs could have fit our theme perfectly. Uh, really good stuff. If you want more recommendations of songs by them, but you don't want to listen to the whole album, hit me up and I'll just give you a few more songs. Chance the Rapper, awesome. Obviously inspired by, influenced by gospel and spirituality. And he's doing really interesting things with the sounds and the aesthetics that hip hop can do and can rely on. Finally, there's a chapter. We're skipping a chapter in the Adam Bradley book. We're skipping ahead to style. We're skipping the wordplay chapter. Still a good chapter, worth reading if you have the time, but I won't test you on it. And the poems this week, I think, are really worth checking out. I really like them. Excuse me. Kari Jackson is a friend of mine and a wonderful poet. He's a 2-time National Poetry Slam champion, and his one book, Any Psalm You Like, I think it's called, Any Psalm You Want, is an incredible book that I recommend checking out. But this poem, Hip Hop Yoga, I think is really interesting in thinking about how hip hop itself is a kind of spiritual practice. And so that's worth checking out. Marcus Wicker, we've got another poem by him that I think is really cool, really strange. Sound devices and music lead him into interest, and the form itself lead him into interesting directions in the poem. And Morgan Parker, she's an incredible poet. Let Me Handle My Business, Damn. It's a beautiful, short, dynamite poem, and takes the title from a Jay-Z line. I forget which song it's in. I think it's in a Kanye West song. He says, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Let me handle my business, damn. That, by the way, is an example of a literary device called epistrophe or epistrophe. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but it's the repetition of the same word at the end of the lines where they mean the same thing, or where they mean different things, rather. Same word, different meaning. I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. It's one of the cleverest lines in hip hop. That's all I've got for you this week. Thanks, y'all. I hope you're doing well. If you need anything, if you have any questions about the class or anything else, hit me up, shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to chat with you. Otherwise, I look forward to reading your reading responses this week and next week, and being in touch with you however makes the most sense. I don't know how to end these lectures, I guess. I just ramble until I find the end session. Cool.